Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Eust. It's not even 5 in the morning, and I'm here to look at me in that mirror there. Who could that handsome man be? I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille. Okay, that's what I look like. You don't care. You want to look at the pens I've got. My name is Pierre Gustafson, and I have been dealing with pens, collecting pens, buying and selling them for 40 years or so, or longer. And one of the pens that I I've always liked the look of, and I loved selling, was a Skyline. And the reason I like Skylines is they've made really, really great nibs. And the strong nibs, I felt I could easily provide anyone really with one, and they wouldn't screw it up somehow. And they're also really fun to collect. You can collect all four. You can collect all the different colors and the different patterns, and solid gold, gold fill. They're really, delightful for the collector. You can find them at any pen show. Almost any flea market will have one. They were quite popular, and consequently, a lot of collectors look down at them. Oh, it's just a Skyline, because they are in fact rather common, relatively speaking. And but what's sort of fun about having a collection? Okay, where did it go? Yes. Something fun about having a collection is showing other sophisticated collectors pens. So we all know that Skylines came in relatively two standard sizes. There was the long version and the short version. And the long version had a longer cap, had a longer barrel, had a longer section. And conversely, the short one had shorter of all of those. But they also decided, well, we can make more money than this. Let's sell the executive. Now, the executive, you have to say it like that, is one which was longer than the long one in every dimension. It also was fatter. It was thicker. So you had a bigger pen all around. And I never can tell whether I'm looking at a executive at a pen show or at a antique shop, because they're all sort of too close, too similar to one another. But when I take this pen and I uncap it and I put it in my hand, oh, it's an executive. Because when I look down at my hand and my hand looks small, then I know my hand looks like it shrunk. Then I know that this is an executive. But wait, there's more. And this is the rarest of them all, I think. Rarer than the solid gold, rarer than the chrome capped, rarer than the sterling capped, which I've never even seen. Well, then it can't be rarer, can it? But never mind. Scratch that last sentence. Edit that out. Rarer still is when I say, well, there's a fourth size. And they said, no. There's the executive and the two stand. No, there's four sizes. So it's like showing someone that's really, really interested in Shakespeare. He wrote dirty sonnets too. Dirty limericks. And they say, no, he never did. And you show them one and they say, okay, he did. This is the smaller one. It's smaller than it's the same size as the smaller one, but it's thinner. And again, you can't tell. Whenever I try to show this pen to someone, I can never find it immediately because it's not small enough. But the caps are not interchangeable. This one doesn't go on at all. This one's too big. So anyway, they're fun because you can also have rare ones in the bunch. Okay, so I used to sell pens at schools, not at the playgrounds. They were taken up by the drug dealers selling their wares. It was at Harvard and Yale, and they would have days when they'd have the poster salesman and the plant salesman there to decorate their dorms, and they and I took a table selling pens, and the Skyline was one that I could easily sell to someone. I could say, well, let me just take that nib off for the one that you like the nib of, and I'll put it on the pen that you like the color of, and we'll switch it around. And if for some reason the Harvard student didn't get their allowance from daddy fast enough, and I could make it cheaper by selling them the pen that had the plastic cap rather than the gold fill cap, etc. There was a lot of variety that I could deal with, and they were really great. But the best part again is my favorite customer, or one of my favorite customers, are artists who sketch, and the Skyline nibs are like the prow of the Stockholm slamming through the Andrea Doria. It can go in the wrong direction. You can sort of almost apply pressure going in the wrong direction, which I would never do with a Waterman, ever, ever, ever. And they're really, really fun to sketch with. Not to render carefully, but to sketch and move around. And last weekend, I was sketching with the Urban Sketchers, the Boston Urban Sketchers, and I ended up stopping off at the brand new store of Mine Host. This is Apple Boom Pens in Bromfield Street, 49 Bromfield. There you can see my bicycle and myself in the reflection of the front door window. It was a Sunday, so it was closed. And but it was really fun to take these pens on the road with me and get to the emotion of the event by or the situation or the place I'm drawing by using a pen like the Skyline to be able to draw without worry that I'm going to break the pen somehow. I keep on picking up the wrong one, the one that doesn't have the ink in it. Anyway, that's pen number 1, and it's already 8 minutes. I was told that my hour-long video was too long. So this is the short one, believe it or not. So the other thing about my pen collection, my amassment, my friend Otto, a pen collector, friend from Boston here, originally from Boston, now he's in California, said, "Pierre, you don't have a collection of pens." And I said, my heart sank, like, how dare he say that about me? I know that his is very fancy, but he said, "You have an amassment of collection. You have 10 collections." In a sense, I do. If I took all of the pens I had and actually thought about it and created a collection out of all of these objects I have, I could have a beautiful collection of sterling silver pens. I could have a beautiful collection of Waterman pens. I could have a beautiful collection of Parker 51s. But I like all pens. They're all of some value to me, and the ones that I like, that especially like, are I don't know, they're the ones that look like they were used. And this is one of them. It's a Waterman sterling silver 494, which by itself is a relatively rare pen. Raised sterling threads, sterling section, old style clip compared to when this was made. And the weight of it is lovely. The nib that's on it is this, it's almost like an accountant nib with just a little bit of flexibility. It's like the Waterman brown nibs, except it's even finer than that. And the line quality that it can produce is just delightful. And the weight that it has, but sort of my favorite part of it are these dings. Look at that. Battle scars it had. And when I was doing my pen portraits, where I would paint, I would take a famous piece of art and I would replace the humanoid with the pen equivalent. It was this pen that I used in this painting, which is about 6 feet tall. And I dressed him in a suit of armor. And these dings, let's see how good a portraitist I am. See if I put the dings in the right spot. I think I put the dings in the right spot. I may have altered a few of them for aesthetic reasons. But this pen I look at it and I think, where has this been? But in addition to its previous life, I'm able to give it a new life. I'm not afraid of bringing this out and drawing with it if I want to bring this one out and draw rather than the skyline, or I'm not afraid of having this in my pocket with my crescent wrench and my ball peen hammer, because it'll just add a couple more dings and dongs to the pen. And I'm not going to intentionally grab my hammer and slam it, but if this were in perfect shape, which is what you want and what almost every single person in the pen community wants, the perfect one, I am happy with the ones that have a little bit of a use to it, because there's a warmth there, and I'm able to use it without fear of breaking it. I don't need to wear the velvet gloves, not the velvet, the satin gloves, whatever the white kid gloves. When I'm using this pen, I can use my gnarly, nasty, ink-stained fingers and be perfectly fine with this pen. So this is almost 9 times out of 10 when someone says, "What's your favorite pen?" my mind pictures this one. And then it starts remembering all the other ones I have, and then I have a hard time picking. Another favorite, though, that comes to mind is one that I have fitted into this box that a friend of mine made for me. He collects and is an expert on Tramp Art, so these are made of wooden cigar boxes like the Tramp Art that you see, and it's quite lovely. Has a handle and a little base. You can carry it with you, and then when it's time to sign the check, you can slide this out, and what do you have? You have a Parker 51. It's not just any Parker 51, it's the Olive. And Olive has its name engraved on it in beautiful cursive shaded lettering, which this pen could never produce, which I think is kind of funny. And this is another pen that inspired this drawing that I did for Pen World. So it's the launch of the Olive, christening of the Olive, rather. And you see, Mrs. Waterman up there or whatever, christening the Olive. Clip is being dropped into place. And I refer to pens, many of the pens I have names on them. So this pen could fit in Otto's idea of how my pens should be organized, I guess, or one collection could be 51s, but I have another collection that are pens that have engravings on them. And so this pen could travel between the the two collections. And but the 51, the reason I'm mentioning the 51, and I'll mention Otto as well, since Otto, by the way, owns the original drawing for this one. I'm very happy he has it. The 51 was a pen that I hated. I hated the 51. It did not do this. None of them could do this. They couldn't make that kind of a line, and that's what I wanted a pen to do. This one made a line like a Sharpie. It was standard and, boring, I thought. And I thought it was too modern looking. I just didn't like the pen. I didn't like it here, there. I didn't like it anywhere. I just did not like this pen. And I sold them to customers that loved them. They would come in and they would tell me how much they loved them. And I'd say, well, why do you love them? And they would tell me, and that didn't help me love them. I didn't understand them. I did not understand them. And one night, in the middle of the night, I woke up in a cold sweat and I understood them. I understood them completely. And the beauty of them and the logic of them all came rushing in. And I've told this story or anytime someone says, I hate the 51, like Otto. Otto said, I'll never ever like that pen. I'd say, I don't know why you like that pen, Pierre. And I'd explain to him why I like it. And he said, no, I'll never like that pen. Well, I got a call in the middle of the night from him one day, and he said, I get it. That's all he said. And he hung up. And I knew what he meant. He got it. The light bulb went off in his head. The eureka moment. And that's what you get with this pen. At some point, you see how perfect it is. Now, when you once then realize how perfect it is, or that it is perfect, then you see why it is so perfect. Well, one of the things is the Euclidean line that it makes. It has a point, and the point looks like a point. The point makes a line, which looks like a line. A line has length, but no width, no dimension. There's no real dimension variation here. So it's sort of, I didn't fill this pen, so I'm sorry. I'm sort of dipping them to make it go. But it's really great. The system of how it functions is great, but it also has little surprises. One of them, and no one's ever mentioned this, not that they should, there is a aural, A-U-R-A-L, quality about this pen. And when the cap slides on the front of the pen, you hear a metal against metal sound as the ring goes against the clutch on the inside. When you post the pen on the back, you have a different sound. It's plastic against plastic, because the plastic barrel is gripping the plastic inner cap, and it's a completely different sensation in your hand as you're capping it or posting it, or uncapping it or unposting it. It's a completely different feel, and the sound is different, and that's just a little surprise that it has. I would use 51s for taking notes in classes or a lecture I was at, or my planning of this thing. I made it originally in a 51, with a 51, because I'm not tempted to be fancy. I'm focused on the word. It makes me focus on the thing that I need to think about. If I was using this, coming up with my lecture script, I would use lots of words that end in ing, just because I like making that thing, or an ly. My entire lecture would be in adjectives and gerunds, and they'd be short sentences that had really fancy capital letters. This pen, on the other hand, makes all letters equally boring. and I can focus on the words that I'm trying to convey. So this is the pen. I like this pen because it reminds me that the pens will tell me something. They'll teach me things. Nibs do it all the time, but sometimes a pen model will do that too. It'll say, pay attention to me. This is not an accident in your hand. This was designed by someone who understood what they were doing. Okay, it's 20 minutes. It's twice as long as it's supposed to be used. I'm very, very sorry because I have one more pen to go. One more pen to go. And I don't have my props with me, but the other pen I have is the Franken Pen. The Franken Pen is something that I've been doing for a long, long time, and I think I didn't coin the term Franken Pen, but a friend of mine did. This was 40 years ago, almost, and not quite 40, 35 maybe. And I had been building pens using Victorian dip pen nibs that I would take out of their pearl holders or their gold fill holders or their fancy cases, their little velvet cases, and I'd yank the nib out and cram them into other pens. Now, cramming is not exactly the right word to use, but my friend Neville said, can you make me a Franken Pen? And I didn't know what a Franken Pen was, and he said, it's what you do. It's like Frankenstein, where you take parts and you make a pen. And I said, okay. So I take dip pen nibs and find a barrel to put them in, and I make them work. However, it's not just finding the nib and the pen. You also have to find a different feed, because the shape of the Franken Pen nib is flatter on top in cross-section, not rounded. And if you crammed this shape into this round hole with this round feed, you're going to crack the nib or distort it or bend it or do something awful. So I use a smaller feed than what would normally go on the pen, and I would gently put it together and make it go. And I often will fit them into desk pen holders, because desk pens are what I use at my desk, and that's where I use these nibs. I don't take these outside to play with the other kids. They stay right here at home. And putting them in a desk pen, and the rest of this is about a desk pen, is really fun, because the desk pen allows you sort of to move the pen in your hand easily back and forth, up and down, and it's actually a very interesting experience to hold a pen way back. If you're used to holding it like this, and you can barely see what you're writing because your big old hand is in the way, by moving it back and drawing, especially drawing with it like this, is really quite lovely. The reason I like these dip pen nibs, Victorian dip pen nibs, is their return. It's easy going from 0 to 60 in a pen, going from thin to fat, but to have it go from 60 to 0 and not do it sluggishly. And the fountain pens snap back as quickly as these do, but the shape of the nib is a little bit different, so that there's a sluggishness in the shape. And you can see these things on my videos if you look hard and find them in the massive videos I have on YouTube. So one of the things I really enjoy doing is trying to match the pen with the correct owner, the correct user. Owners, the collectors, they're easier to deal with. They just want the big fancy rare pens, and they don't want to pay any money. They're easy to deal with. I ignore them because I'm not selling them my pens from my collection. I'm selling them pens that are more common but have really great nibs, and I understand, a lefty is going to want this kind of pen, a artist is going to want that kind of pen, a calligrapher is going to want this kind of pen. And I've been doing this for 40 years, and I know kind of how to do it, how to see the pen and match them, be the matchmaker. So 25 minutes. I'm really sorry, Used. I don't think I can make this any slower. Goodbye. How do you spell bye? B-Y-E. Okay. Dip. I don't fill these Franken pens. I dip them. Goodbye. Bye.